Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Secure the Seat Live. I'm so happy that you're here with us today. You could be anywhere on the internet, but you're here with us. So go ahead and ping somebody and tell them to come join the conversation. Last week, we had such a great conversation on authenticity. Today, we're having a part two because it's just so important for us to continue to be our most healthiest and authentic selves. And you get to define what that is. And so last week we had Kanika and Steven. So if you missed that, make sure that you go on over to our YouTube page, Secure the Seat Live, be a subscriber, and you can watch all of the episodes. So listen, last month, my book came out October 5th, Right Within. Thank you for everyone who's purchased the book. We're going to drop the link in the chat so that if you haven't gotten the book, I read the Audible myself. So if you do like my voice, you can go ahead and hear me read that like story time to you. And it's a great way to read books if you haven't been using Audible. And then also you can buy the book wherever books are sold. And so definitely get it. I'm rocking today my shirt. Kanika Tolver, my friend, she got me this shirt. It says, "How you gonna win if you ain't right within?" And that is the vibes, right? So today, let us know how you're doing. How was your weekend? I was traveling the last several days for the book. And so it feels good to be home. It's nothing like being home if you like where you live, right? And so I pray that that you have a space inside of wherever you spend the most time that's for you, even if it's a corner where it's just yours. I hope that you're creating that space for yourself. I have my good friend, Tonya Evans with us today. She is a tenured professor. She is a dean. She is I call her in my head the crypto queen. She is a public speaker. She's a lot of things, but she's a great human in my book. And so I'm excited for her to continue this conversation on authenticity because, I think a lot of us struggle. What pieces of ourselves do we want to show up as, right? The workplace constantly says, bring your authentic self to work. But sometimes when we bring those pieces, we're not always met with confetti, right? So we definitely have to have those conversations. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up my friend. Hey, girl, hey.
Oops. Hey, how are you?
Good to see you. How's it going?
It's going well for a Fun Day Monday. That's what I call it now. Fun Day Monday. It feels better than Oh Lord Monday. So
I like that. I had a friend who would always be like, oh,
exactly.
Mondays. I'm like, you got to change the outlook. So I like that. I like that so much. So Tanya, tell everybody a little bit more about you who may not be familiar with your work.
So as you said, I'm no longer a dean, but I'm going to carry all of my accolades forward. Every time you reach a different pinnacle of success, I'm carrying all of those because they were hard earned. So I'm a former associate dean of academic affairs for my previous law school. Currently, I'm a full tenured professor at Penn State Dickinson Law School. I'm the CEO and founder of Advantage Evans Academy, where that crypto queen status comes from. We'll talk more about that in later in the show. But basically, it is an onboarding platform for folks who don't know necessarily anything about finance or investing or tech to learn about crypto and its empowering characteristics, but in a legal, compliant, and safe way. A lot of people can tell you about crypto, but a lot of people will also protect you along the way. So I love that part. I'm also the host of a weekly podcast, the Tech Intersect Podcast, on all of your favorite platforms and channels. And I'm the CEO of me. So when I'm working or on loan in corporate or academic environments, I'm there because I want to be, not because I have to be. And that is certainly a part of my authenticity journey, to be sure.
Oh, I love all the things. And it hits kind of different when you say you're bringing your past accolades into the current. And I love that so much. And I hope you all heard that. So Tanya is already dropping us some bring those things with you. Okay. And so that's where we want to start today is what is your personal definition of authenticity?
When I think of authenticity, I think about a lot of the work that Brene Brown and others have done in this authenticity space that leads me to vulnerability. And I think about my own personal and professional journey to just a more authentic self. I'm the most authentic that I've ever been personally and professionally. And it has a lot to do with acknowledging your boundaries as you interact in the world, because not everybody deserves your trust or you showing up fully as a matter of protection. But I also think that that protective shield that we as Black women necessarily come into corporate or academic environments with as a matter of protection also can be the very thing that prevents us from making the connections that allow us to show up in a way that makes us vulnerable, that I consider it like melting, the ice that we are often trapped in, so that people can get to see our smile and the brightness in the eyes, and to have experiences where you feel like where I feel like I'm connecting. But that's because I'm not the fully buttoned up person, because I'm actually very funny and very likable after I get to know you. And I don't like many people, but once I get to know you, it's fabulous. And I had that mantra in my head. It's like, I can show up that way at work as well, as long as it welcomes the fullness of my expression. I heard Kanika last week talk about this as well. And I wasn't always in a place where they valued me showing up authentically, but it really is about the fullness of my ability and what my resume suggests I can do, but also that outside of that, that I feel comfortable, that I can breathe in that space in a way that makes it a pleasure to work. I'm highly competent, but I want to enjoy it along the way. That requires me to be authentic so that I can connect.
Listen, I'm getting my
tambourine already? Yes.
I'm getting it out early. I was traveling yesterday, so I didn't get to church. So thank you for supplementing that for me. But you said something, a place where I can feel like I can breathe. Because I think sometimes we're so concerned, either consciously or unconsciously, about assimilating, trying to make sure that people and likable and those sorts of things. And sometimes we lose ourselves along the way where we can't breathe, right? It feels suffocating. I think about all the times I was in my former life, and I didn't always want to wear heels every single day of the week. It hurt my feet. It wasn't most comfortable. I mean, I love to wear a killer heel every now and then, but to feel like that pressure that every day I have to wear this type of shoe or be kind of constrained. And now I allow myself to choose so that I can breathe. Right. And I just love how you put that.
Yes, it is. I love the story that you have shared around just what are you going to wear when you show up? And are you going to be in the buttoned up suit, or are you going to rock it the way that you're most comfortable? I know that Arlen does that really well. I think of Lovey. She does that really well. And when you are at your most comfortable, if you're in a room that respects it, that's fantastic. If not, I'm not going to change myself to fit in. That comes with a lot of, Forbes told all my business, as you know. So hello, nobody told Forbes to do that, but I am a Forbes 50 over 50 list participant this year. I was named the Forbes 50 over 50. So that comes with some age and stages of life that I've moved through to feel more comfortable. For those who are earlier in their journey, if you can get this right now, that you won't have to wait till Forbes 50 over 50 to order, to do that shout moment and have your own tambourine moment, because you know that you didn't change to fit into somewhere where you were not welcome, but you waited and you continued to grow so that you could fully show up for the place that would welcome you, or you create your own space.
That part. And I think too, it's important to note that you get to decide what pieces you want to bring in these spaces, right? And during this week, I hope that you'll think about what are the pieces of myself I want to bring so that I can do the best work of my career or my life or whatever you have but you do have that control. And so thank you, Professor Crypto Queen. We appreciate that. I know a lot of people in the chat. Tell us what your version or what your definition of authenticity is. We want to make sure that we capture some of that conversation in the chat as well. But Tanya, tell us about a time when you decided that you needed to bring your authentic self to work without second guessing how others might perceive you. I know you kind of alluded in different ways, but I'm sure there's that kind of crossroads moment where you're like, you know what, I'm going to have to do this for me. The moment that I really started to make the shift was to remove the
the trappings of being a professor and what I thought that meant, so that I could have more authentic connections with my students, because they deserve for me to show up authentically. Doesn't hurt on student evaluations either. If you can remove the impediments, both real, some imagined, mostly real, particularly as a Black woman at the podium in front of, mostly white students from many of the places where I taught at my previous institution, University of New Hampshire, Franklin Pierce School of Law. It is no surprise. It was a little surprising, but not only was I the only Black administrator at the law school and the only Black or person of color, not just Black, but person of color in terms of the faculty, but also few, if no staff. I was literally the only, and this was just a couple of years, 18 months, 2 years ago. And so I say all that to say that in order to really connect authentically with my students, have them get to know me, that doesn't change the level of my excellence or my expectations for them, but they actually, because I was able to just show up with jokes and with humor, but also with a wealth of experience practicing and teaching for 15 years, practicing for 25. But it made me think, this question makes me think of the time that I didn't earlier in my career, which made it more important now that I'm in academia. And I started out in big law at a big law firm in Philadelphia. What people may not, I guess I did not mention, but fun fact about me, I'm also a published poet and a performance poet who participated back in the day when Def Poetry Jam was a thing, when Def Jam Records was coming up, and they also had Def Poetry Jam on HBO. I was not on the show, but I was the first runner-up in Philadelphia, and so I opened for Music Soul Child, who was a Def Jam artist when he came through Philly. And I don't want to overstate it. I was the opener to the opener to the opener, literally. And my dressing room was actually a bathroom, but that's the point. The point of this story is I was there. I was in the room where it happened, but I was doing all of that literally from like 10 p.m. on. I would work all day. I'd get there, first person at the firm, almost the last person to leave. And I would go to the nearest coffee shop and perform. After I did that Def Poetry Jam event, I was on some papers back in the day had like this weekend insert. And it was a great thing for an artist to be on the cover of that weekend insert. I was on the cover of the insert. I went Monday to the firm, and my assigning partner came in, very gruff man, not a very nice man, but he was always gruff. I didn't know that there was anything in particular that was wrong. He came in, threw the weekender across my desk at me, and he said, "If you have time to do this," pointing to the performance, "then you don't have time to do this." And he walked out of my office. And I believe that that was one of those moments that changed the trajectory of what I did, because I was already someone who chose ordinarily safety over soul. We've talked about that before. But that, that was a crossroads in my life. And I leaned into his concept of what was appropriate, as opposed to my signature piece, which is find your own shine. It took me another decade to get back to that moment, but I thought of that when I had another opportunity and another crossroads to make a different decision.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that, there's a lot there, but the fact that we can be multi-hyphenate, right? And we can have these various intersections in which we identify at, poet, author, daughter, you have all of these different intersections, and we shouldn't feel like we have to hide those versions of ourselves, right? Doesn't mean you can't do a great job from 9 to 7 and also have a life where you're rocking the mic after 10 o'clock, right? And I'm glad that I'm sure it helped you in that moment to say, wait a second, I got to get back to my authentic self, right? Yeah. Absolutely. Because, the level of creativity can be, is stifled when we are not authentic in our ability to express. Then everything else that we might do personally or professionally is also going to be limited or stifled. And so the idea of, in moments where
perhaps the moment requires that you are more protective, and that is one thing, but that it not be this chronic habit when it no longer serves you well. I think that's a critical point to identify. In this moment, maybe I make a certain decision for my own safety, but it should not follow me for a decade or two to limit my ability, my potential to be all that the full expression of who I was put on this planet to be.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a lot of variations of this question in the chat, Tanya, and I just want to put it out on the table for you is, what advice would you give to someone who does bring their authentic self to work and they're constantly kind of scrutinized because of how they're showing up?
I think that job or opportunity in that moment is a place that you are passing through. We pick up all sorts of opportunities. You are a visitor in a strange land, and you need to get another stamp for your passport to get out at some point. I think of many times when I realized, even my last job opportunity, it's like I have made a decision today that I will leave. Today is not the day that I leave, but it is a very clear short-term assignment, and I'm going to take all the lessons and the blessings. I'm not going to cast any shade. I'm going to get what I need from here. I'm going to leave this place better than I found it, even though they don't deserve it. Now I'm thinking of the broader term, because I'm going to be better when I leave as well. So those moments are you got to read the room. Politics and work is local. But then that's when I think of it, quite frankly, a very strong analogy in my head is if you're in an abusive relationship, oftentimes the day you decide that is the last time, and then fill in the blank what that is for you. That may not be the day that you leave. It often is not the day that you leave, but it's the day that you set the intention. And you said, this is my intention. I have no idea how this is going to work out. And you leave space for the creator, by whatever name you call him, her, or them, to say, this is my intention. I need the tools, resources, and people to make this move. Amen. And I know from my own personal experience, ways are made out of no way when you set the intention that the universe will collaborate for your success.
Listen, we're passing through, and I think it's that moment of intentionality where we're saying, okay, maybe I can't change things currently, but I'm changing in my mind, right? I'm not going to let this place suffocate and take the best pieces of myself. And I think that is critical. I remember being in my former life, my last job, 9 to 5, and I was building my company, The Memo, and I was initially very secretive about the things that I was doing,
Yes.
In my mind, I'm like, I'm building my empire, but I was fearful, of how people would see it. And I remember we were at a team retreat, and all of a sudden one of my coworkers hollers out from one end of the table, Minda, I saw you were at the White House Women of Summit, blah, 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 for your company memo. And I wanted to slide.
You're right. Like Homer Simpson, that Homer Simpson meme, and you're switching back into yes.
And in that moment, I wanted to do a Zach Morris where I just time out. I'm I got to take out for a second. And I felt some kind of way about him saying that out loud. But then okay, Minda, this is what you're doing. And this is part of who you are. This is a very big piece of your life. And in that moment, after I was stopped being mortified, right, I shifted and I said, yeah, actually, I do things outside of work, like making sure that women of color have equity in the room while I'm sitting at the table. And I said it, my manager heard it, all of the things. And from that moment forward, it was a way that I owned the space, that I can do a great job at what I'm doing. And I'm also doing other things, right? And I didn't let the environment try to suffocate or make me shrink, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think it also makes us shrink who we are and who we need to be in that moment.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I love that idea of, and you alluded to, not just alluded, but stated something similar last week. And it's this idea of building something. In the early stages, maybe you're incubating the idea, but actually being able to say it out loud. I'm so grateful. I love my dean and where I'm working now, that I have this fully expressed, fully realized platform that's just for me. But it has this beautiful impact of amplifying where I work. that the gems and the accolades that I received outside, that I have the free expression of that, really blesses where I am.
Yeah.
So it's for managers to be able to recognize that and to amplify your excellence is a full circle experience. And the best leaders are able to position those over whom they lead to be great and excellent. That just makes everything better. As we both know, however, some people don't want that experience. And we've talked about that article, particularly for Black women who go from pet to threat in the work environment, meaning someone brings you in their humble estimation, and you're their pet, and they go around and they take you to all the departments and show you off as whatever, the hire that they were responsible for. And then you come in to do the job and ask the questions, challenge assumptions, and you go from pet to threat. And now everything that was wonderful and beautiful about you is no longer welcomed in that environment. So we have to be careful of that. But the best leaders did what you have described.
Yeah, and I also want to thank you for mentioning that, and then also role modeling what it can look like, that we can find spaces or create them, but we can find spaces and tables that take those various intersections of ourselves. You are able to do it right now in your current role. Stephen talked about it last week. Kanika's doing it too.
Yes.
I teach at NYU, and they let me do and say what I need to do and say.
Right, exactly.
I need to write, all of the things, and we can bring, and I feel like that's the reason why I even have one of the reasons I have the job is because I am bringing those authentic pieces of myself, right? And so we can, the more we talk about it out loud, we know that there's spaces for us to dwell in that we may have to pass through, but we can also settle in and enjoy.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. The pass through versus the settle in. I love that. Where's my tambourine? Shake the tambourine.
Take them there. The last question that I want to ask before we jump into bonus round is, for those of us who are listening, watching live, who will watch it on the recap, some of us have brought different versions of ourselves up until today, but they want to show up in new ways. Tanya, what advice do you have for them? Maybe they were maybe they like to be called something yesterday. They want to change their name. Maybe it was Yasminda yesterday. Maybe it's Minda today, right? But right. How do we give ourselves permission to show up how we need to right in the moment?
I think, and this is something that I did for myself, and hopefully this will be helpful, is sitting down to figure out when I felt the best about myself. Just sitting in that and getting reflective, quiet if you need to. When was I showing up the best? I had to go back pretty far to, because I had the trappings of corporate and big law and all of that. I'm checking all of the boxes and doing all of the things. Where was I most comfortable and authentic? A lot of that had to do with my creativity. Going back, you would have loved little Tanya, because I'm an only child sitting quietly by myself. Back in the day, we're recording cassette tapes. I think I told you this last time, but I'm Lady 180 on the MIC, so I really should be quoting my own lyrics later, but somebody had to pay me for that, so we'll talk about somebody else's lyrics. But I was creating, my own thing. I had my own little studio and et cetera. And I wanted to figure out what that 8-year-old Tanya would be most proud of doing in this moment. And then starting to put pieces of that around you, even your work environment. There have been many offices where I didn't put up a thing. I would put up my degrees, but nothing else in my office was anything about me. It signaled to me that I did not exist in that room. It also signaled to others that I wasn't going to stay long. So bringing some part of yourself that you can see and remind you will give you the courage in small ways and then in bigger ways to really show up fully and authentically when you can remember and feel the feeling of what it is to show up fully and really be proud of yourself.
I love that. I was thinking about, for those who've read either Right Within or the memo, I mentioned this woman, Carrie, that I call her Carrie in the book that I worked with. And once I knew that environment was not a place for me, I was like, I knew it early, but I did not settle in. I did not put any pictures. I'm like, I don't want anything about anything going on here. And when I allowed myself not to put the pictures, not to do the things, because I knew that I was just passing through and I didn't want this to be normalized.
Right.
So I love that so much. Listen, let's drop Tanya's information in the chat because I know people are going to want to stay connected, follow. We'll talk about some of the things she's doing in just a bit. But Tanya, you know that I am a lover of grits and rap lyrics.
Yes.
How do you like your grits?
I can't even believe this is a question. So I feel like, is this like a real question? Because there's truly only one way with butter. Like I heard something about sugar or something. What is happening? What's going on?
I feel like those people need to get on the flight with Elon Musk and go straight. That's what you're putting in your grits. But I knew we were connected and so
simpatico. Yes.
But what is your favorite rap lyric and why? And now I'm like, what was it? Would you say your name was? Lady who?
Lady 180. Lady 180 on the MIC. Hard rockin', ever shocking. Don't you know that's me? Like that's old school, baby. That's old school. You see?
We might have to do a secure the seat after dark where we bring our mics out and do some things. Okay. But whose lyric are you using today?
So I have a hype song that you have to indulge me because this is hip hop, but it's not the hardest hip hop song. So if you give me a little space to be authentic with what I'm rocking and how I prepare, I always want to. I want to go to Mary J. Blige. There's one thing I do want to say. There's a powerful, dynamic young sister who's coming up. Her name is Latasha, and she is in the NFT space. She's like one of the first hip hop artists to actually do an NFT project, and it is bananas. I don't know all of her lyrics, but her energy is off the charts. So next time I come on, I'll be able to spit her lyrics, but I want everybody to check her out. But I love me some Mary J. Blige. And any one of her lyrics, sometimes she's singing it, sometimes she's saying it, right? So I always like to get hype with Just Fine. And particularly because we're talking about authenticity. Just Fine really sticks out because so I like when I'm looking at me, when I'm walking past the mirror, no stress through the night at the time in my life, ain't worried about if you feel it. Got my head on straight. I got my mind right. I ain't going to let you kill it. I wouldn't change my life. My life's just fine. And that's that on that.
Mary, she always hits, Mary is actually, I know she's not a rapper by the way that people know her, but she drops.
Absolutely. Those are bars, straight bars.
I love that. I love that so much. And we all are going to be just fine, but we have to figure out what that looks like and what pieces do we need to bring to our spaces so we can be just fine. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Also, I wanted to ask, all of us are leaders here. You don't have to wait on your manager to give you the title. We all can activate our leadership at any time right now. What's one piece of advice you would give everybody on how to make the workplace better than they found it?
That's literally my life's mantra for certainly the workplace and beyond. When you are able to leave something better than you found it, that means that you went into that space, whether it was for a reason, season, or a lifetime, and you showed up fully and authentically to use your talents, gifts, and skills to breathe life into a situation. Not because the place deserves it, but because you are showing up with excellence to do what you were put on this earth to do, and earth and beyond. Evidently, we're going to be going to space soon. I don't know what's happening with the rockets, but for the time that we're here, and even when we are in outer space, that you give yourself permission to be unapologetically dope, and because you're on assignment, no matter where you are, leave it better than you found it. Shout out to my cousin, who's I see in the chat, Brittany Borden Edwards. She's doing that. She's being unapologetically dope. And that would be my advice to you. You can do it in small ways. There doesn't have to be this big grand gesture, but when you leave your desk or that place or that space, in your heart of hearts, you did the best you could with what you had to make a difference.
Mic drop. Yes, I think we're going to have to bring back and have an after hours. And I may even share what my mic name is, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're there yet.
Wine. Wine and rap lyrics. Let's do this after hours. Yes.
We'll figure that out. Maybe a New Year's Eve something. But I love that so much. Great advice. One last thing before I ask you another question is, there was one question that I thought was important. I mean, all the questions are important, but one I wanted you to address, if you wouldn't mind, is for our young girls, even our young men, or however they might, I heard someone say royals, however they might identify royals, but what advice would you have for them on how to figure out their authenticity right now?
Oh, I'm just so encouraged and excited for our young royals. I adore that, because you have, this is kind of the blessing and the other side of the blessing. I don't want to say curse, but the challenge when you have unprecedented access to information and this false sense of authenticity that can be sparked in social media. And so I encourage young royals to really focus on in-person authentic communities where you can find support. Reading as much as you can about people who have already made it, reading Minda Harts and Rachel Rogers and Arlen Hamilton and Lovey, who has a new young adult project coming out for younger people as well. And just lean into the path that others have taken and find your voice in their story. And that can be very empowering. Don't get lost in the glitz and the glamour, the illusion of glitz and glamour in social media to make you feel badly about yourself. Read, connect, and shine.
Read, connect, and shine. And we can all take that information with us into the week, because it's so important. Tanya, what are you up to? How can people connect with you, work with you, all the things?
So I'm so excited about this new membership club that I created, the AE Explore Live Club, that once a month we get together for master classes and crypto fundamentals, crypto best practices, how to set up a wallet safely, how to vet all of the different types of crypto. And I'm doing that at advantageevans.com. We start this Wednesday. We meet monthly Wednesdays at 7 p.m. You have access to all the resources and the replays and me live with some of my other instructors. So if you go to advantageevans.special, you can join for the year for just $99, which is usually the quarterly price. You can do that today. I've extended the time. Technically, it expired this weekend, but I'm extending it for these Secure the Seat Live folks to get in and win. So we can definitely grow in this new digital economy.
Yes. So listen, if you've been wondering what in the heck is crypto, in what is it, NFT, Bitcoin, a wallet, any of the things, this is a great opportunity. It's affordable for you to chime in, learn, right? You don't have to go click a link and have to do the wallet yourself. You don't have to be scared and, it's monopoly money. If you think it's monopoly money, then you need to get into the course so that you can find out, you can educate yourself on what it really is. Because I would call her professor, as Professor Evans would say, I think I'm allowed to say this because you said it online.
Please.
That monopoly money that a lot of people be talking about, she purchased a home with that money. And I don't know about you, but you can't purchase real homes with monopoly money.
Absolutely. Part of my freedom now is financial freedom. In just 2 years, my entire life changed. I bought a home, cash, zero mortgage at this point, for my mom, paid off all my debt, hers as well. And now I have options. I'm there. I'm anywhere I am. Trust and believe it's because I want to be, not because I have to be. I've been there before, so there's zero judgment. But the opportunity, I'd like to teach other people to do that as well.
Yes. So come and get this information. Come secure your seat. We are so thankful that you took time out in your day on your Monday. I know you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. Share this with someone. All the replays go up on YouTube after our session is over. So listen to it. If you're finding, man, this is tough, the space that I'm in, I feel like I'm stuck. I'm not sure what pieces. Listen to last week's. Start with last week's with Kanika and Steven, and then get you some coffee and some tea or a beverage and finish up with us today with Professor Evans. I'm just so thankful for all of you. Let's find what those pieces are of ourselves that we want. Yes. And let's bring up any final thoughts.
I'm just so proud of you and everything that you're doing. I'm just dived into, wrong side, Right Within. And I love the Audible. And I was telling you, I have the book and I'm underlining while I'm listening because you have Kanika said it last week, this beautiful soothing voice. And so I like that. And I like to dig into the book. So I highly recommend that. So I'm giving you your flowers to create this space for all of us to continue to grow. You've been riding with me for a minute, and I think the world of you and everything that you've done for me personally, but also what you're doing for the world. That's not an overstatement. That's just facts.
Well, I thank you for our friendship. And let me also tell you all, sometimes when we talk about authenticity, we feel like, maybe we can't be ourselves with other people. But there are people who are waiting to embrace your authenticity, the best and healthiest versions of you. And I love my relationship with Professor Evans, because, and you are a doctor, you
I am
on many things, but I think it's really important to find your squad of people who you can bring your full self to, because we sit at so many different intersections. So not just at work, but in your personal life too. Make sure that you have people you can be yourself with. That's so important. So listen, we'll drop the links back inside the chat just so you can make sure you can connect. Maybe you're not interested right now in the membership, but maybe there's somebody who in your circle who has been like, oh, I want to get into that. This is a great opportunity for a holiday gift, or as people are thinking about their generational wealth. Maybe stocks is not your thing, but you want to do something in the space. I think it's important to do that. But again, thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week at Monday at noon. So keep securing your seat and have a great day.